Right now, the life you've been waiting for is demanding your decision. Every moment you hesitate, your future slips through your fingers. This is the instant where everything changes. Not tomorrow, not someday, but this very second. Most people never step into this moment. They drift through life as passengers, carried by the currents of routine, fear, and the expectations of others. They inherit stories that were never theirs. They accept limits they never question. They wait for a sign, a miracle, a perfect time that never arrives, and while they wait, life moves on without them. But a few, just a rare, determined few, realize a truth that transforms everything. Your life changes the moment you change your mind. This is the philosophy that drove Edison when he failed 10,000 times and still returned to the laboratory with the same fire. It's the conviction that turned a poor steelworker's son named Andrew Carnegie into one of the richest men in history long before he earned his first dollar. It's the spark that Walt Disney felt when he stood in the ruins of his bankrupt studio and decided with absolute certainty that he wasn't finished yet. None of these men were waiting for the world to choose them. They chose themselves. They looked at the chaos of their lives and said, "This will not be my final form." Every great achievement in human history begins with a declaration, spoken or silent, made in the unseen chambers of the mind. I will become more than I am right now. This is the power you've forgotten. This is the power you were born with. This is the power you must reclaim, because the truth is, your life today is a reflection of the decisions you made years ago. Your habits, your beliefs, your standards, your boundaries, your excuses. Nothing in your external world exists without permission from your internal one. And until you make a new decision, until you decide who you will become, your life will continue to echo your past instead of your potential. But the moment you decide, the universe shifts. The moment you decide, your mind reorganizes itself around a new identity. The moment you decide, your excuses die because your purpose becomes louder than your fear. People talk about motivation as if it's a spark that appears and disappears at random. But motivation isn't magic. It's the outcome of identity. When you decide who you are, your actions follow without negotiation. A disciplined person doesn't try to wake up early. They wake up early because discipline is who they decided to be. A wealthy mind doesn't try to see opportunity. They see it because abundance is the identity they committed to. A resilient soul doesn't try to rise after failure. They rise because resilience is the character they forged in advance. Identity comes first, action comes second, results come third. This is the order the world never teaches you, but it's the order that shapes every success story. Think of Henry Ford. Before he built an automobile, before he built a company, before he built an empire, he built a belief. He made a decision. People will travel the world in machines that drive themselves. A ridiculous idea at the time, an insult to logic, a fantasy. But decision never asks permission from reality. Decision makes reality bend. Ford didn't wait for the world to believe in him. He believed so deeply that the world had no choice but to follow. That is the power you must step into. Not someday, not soon, now, because your life is happening right now. Your destiny is unfolding right now. Every second you hesitate, you empower your old identity to continue ruling your future. You reinforce the version of yourself that is tired, uncertain, and conditioned by yesterday's limitations. But every second you decide, truly decide, you reinforce the version of yourself that is unstoppable. And once you make this decision, the world responds differently. Doors open, people appear, ideas flow, courage awakens. The impossible begins to loosen its grip. Not because of luck, not because of timing, but because decision sharpens your mind into a weapon that cuts through every barrier between you and your future. You must understand, the world does not change when you wish. It changes when you decide. Wishful thinking creates hope. Decision creates transformation, and transformation is what your soul has been begging for. The mind is not a mirror, it is a lens, and that lens is shaped by the decisions you make. When you choose who you will become, your lens changes. Suddenly, challenges are no longer obstacles, they are lessons. Failures are no longer punishments, they are feedback. The noise of the world no longer dictates your mood, your energy, or your ambition. Instead, clarity takes over. You begin to see patterns where others see chaos. You begin to recognize opportunities where others see dead ends. You feel a magnetic pull toward the life you declared as yours, and nothing can shake that alignment. Clarity is the companion of decision. Without it, action is scattered, inconsistent, and powerless, but with it, every step becomes deliberate, every word spoken, every choice made, every relationship formed aligns with the destiny you envision. Imagine Abraham Lincoln in the darkest days of the Civil War, standing in a nation tearing itself apart. His enemies were not only external, they were internal, doubts within his own mind, whispers that questioned his ability to hold a divided country together. And yet Lincoln had decided who he would be, the president who would preserve the Union. That decision alone shaped his thoughts, his strategy, and ultimately history itself. Decision is more than thinking. It is a relentless commitment. It is the promise you make to yourself that no circumstance, no fear, no critic will sway the path you have chosen. It is the force behind discipline, the spark that ignites vision. Every habit you build, every hour you dedicate, every sacrifice you make becomes a brick in the fortress of the person you are becoming. And let me be clear, the bricks are laid in struggle. There is no shortcut, no magic formula, no one to carry you except your own will. Napoleon Hill called it definiteness of purpose. Today, we call it intentional life design. The principle is eternal. Without a concrete decision, without ownership of your identity, the world will decide for you. And the world is indifferent. It does not pause for your dreams. It does not wait for your courage. It only moves forward. Purpose is the rocket fuel of decision. Without purpose, you drift. With it, you become unstoppable. Steve Jobs, when he returned to Apple, did not ask for permission to innovate. He had decided in every fiber of his being who he would become, the man who would place beauty and simplicity at the heart of technology. That decision drove him to defy investors, critics, and even common sense. That decision brought the world the iPhone. That decision created a legacy, and that same power exists in you. It is not in your job title, your degree, your background, or your connections. It is in your choice. Belief is the fire that keeps the decision alive. It is the oxygen for your ambition. Without belief, decisions die quietly, like embers buried under doubt. But with belief, even a single human being can move mountains, disrupt industries, and change the course of nations. Belief is what carried Thomas Edison through sleepless nights, surrounded by failure, to invent a light brighter than the world had ever seen. Belief is what made Oprah Winfrey rise from poverty, abuse, and rejection to become one of the most influential voices on the planet. Belief begins in the private chambers of your mind and manifests in every action, every choice, every heartbeat that drives toward your destiny. Discipline, then, is the hands that shape the fire. Belief without discipline is a dream. Discipline without belief is empty effort, but when belief and discipline combine, a human life transforms into a force of nature. The disciplined mind does not succumb to fleeting desires, temporary setbacks, or the comfort of procrastination. It moves, it persists, it endures, and it does so because you decided who you will be, and you refuse to betray that decision. You refuse to live a life dictated by circumstances, mediocrity, or fear. You refuse to allow anything weaker than your highest self to dominate your actions. Action must follow decision with precision. Dreams are useless without movement. Planning is meaningless without execution. You can read every book ever written on wealth, mindset, and personal mastery, but unless you take decisive action aligned with your identity, you remain invisible, unheard, untouched by your own potential. Carnegie built an empire not because he hoped to, but because he acted relentlessly to execute the vision he had decided upon. Ford built cars not because the world asked, but because he relentlessly pursued the image in his mind of how transportation could transform society. Disney created worlds not because he was lucky, but because he relentlessly pursued the life he had already chosen to inhabit. Gratitude amplifies every decision. It is the lens that allows you to see not only what you lack, but what you already possess. It turns struggle into leverage, mistakes into lessons, and ordinary days into stepping stones toward greatness. A grateful mind never wavers in its decision because it knows that each moment, each challenge, and each victory is part of the design of who you are becoming. Gratitude is the secret that keeps belief alive when fear whispers that you are not enough.